It started with the TV. Emily had just moved into her new apartment. It was small, cheap, and a little run down, but it was hers. The previous tenant had left behind an old CRT television, the kind with the bulky back and a fuzzy screen. She thought it was quaint, a relic of the past, so she kept it. The first night she was unpacking when she heard it, a faint hiss of static coming from the living room. She walked in to find the TV on, displaying nothing but snow. Confused, she picked up the remote and pressed the power button. Nothing happened. She unplugged it and the screen went dark. The next night it happened again. This time the static was louder, more insistent. Emily unplugged the TV again, but as she turned to leave, she heard something, a voice barely audible, coming from the speakers. It was whispering her name. She froze. The voice was soft, almost childlike, but there was something wrong with it, something unnatural. She told herself it was her imagination and went to bed, but she didn't sleep well. Over the next few days, the TV kept turning on by itself. Each time the static grew louder and the whispers became clearer. They weren't just saying her name anymore. They were telling her things they couldn't possibly know. Her childhood pet's name, the street she grew up on, the date of her mother's death. Emily tried to ignore it, but the TV was always there, always watching. She covered it with a sheet, but the static would bleed through, muffled but persistent. She thought about throwing it out, but something stopped her. Deep down, she was curious. What was trying to reach her? One night, she couldn't take it anymore. She sat in front of the TV, staring into the static. The whispers grew more urgent. Then suddenly the screen flickered. The static cleared, just for a moment, and she saw it. A face. It was pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes and a mouth stretched too wide. It was smiling. Emily screamed and stumbled back, but the TV didn't turn off. The face was still there, staring at her, its lips moving in time with the whispers. She could hear them clearly now. They were telling her to come closer. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't obey. She felt herself being pulled toward the screen, her hands reaching out as if to touch it. The static grew louder, filling the room, drowning out everything else. The face was so close now, its breath cold against her skin. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The TV went dark, and the room was silent. Emily collapsed to the floor, shaking and gasping for air. She didn't know how long she sat there, but when she finally looked up, the TV was gone. Relief washed over her. It was over. She told herself it was just a bad dream, a trick of her mind. But as she stood up, she noticed something, a faint hiss of static coming from the bedroom. She walked in slowly, her heart pounding. The TV was there, sitting on her dresser, its screen glowing with static. The whispers started again, soft and insistent. And this time, they weren't just in the TV. They were all around her, in the walls, in the air, in her head. Emily tried to scream, but no sound came out. The static grew louder, filling her vision, her mind. She could feel it pulling her in, dragging her toward the screen. The last thing she saw was the face, smiling as it reached out to her. The next morning, the landlord found the apartment empty. Emily was gone, along with all her belongings. The only thing left was the old TV, sitting in the middle of the living room, its screen dark and silent. But if you listen closely late at night, you might hear it, a faint hiss of static, and a voice whispering your name.